Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Tom Bilyeu Show Live. We are here. We're going to be doing it. Today's going to be heavy, so brace yourself for that. The shocking body cam footage of Henry Nowak's final moments have sparked riots in the UK. Konstantin Kissin's comparison of Britain's response to George Floyd versus Henry Nowak has gone hyper viral. Robert Lowe has gone hyper viral himself for his speech where he was reading aloud from the rape gang investigation. It is mortifying. Russia launched a major attack on Ukraine, and then Ukraine has responded with their own strikes in quite spectacular fashion. And Bernie Sanders wants to seize 50% of AI companies like any good communist would. And gamers just cannot catch a break. God of War goes female, and an RPG developer being accused of creating trad wife porn because a character is wearing a long dress. It's wild. It's wild out there, boys and girls. So buckle up, everybody. We are going to be showing some of the Nowak footage, which has led to riots in the UK. This is one of the most important things going on right now. And when we get to that point in the conversation, I will give you guys a bit of a warning. Some people may not want to look at the footage, may just want to listen, which is far easier to digest. If you have kids in the room, today might not be the day, at least for the beginning. So yeah. Drew, I feel like we need some sort of warm up before we go right into this. Like, this is rough, but I'm not sure.
It's taken over Twitter feeds. And it's interesting always when an international story, something that happens in the UK kind of transcends boundaries and borders. There's so many UK specific politics stuff we never even touch on.
Yeah, true.
But there's certain things that definitely come across the pond. So we definitely have to talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, look, this idea is becoming global. It's a very fascinating moment that we live in, that so much of what is going on is being shared across the English-speaking West. You're getting some of it bleed out into other languages, but there's like a collective thing that's happening right now. Japan is even getting into the mix, where we're all going to have to deal with immigration. We're having this sort of very slow shift in the perception of what it means to be in the West in terms of this sense of original sin, that slavery is the thing that makes white European culture just forever bad and it's permanently tainted. There's like this crazy debate that at some point, I think it'd be worth maybe doing a deep dive on or something, where archaeological evidence is coming along that if you're a student of history, I can't believe anybody is surprised by this, but that what they're seeing is that the genes in a population will abruptly shift. And I'm talking in less than 100 years. So it's not something that you would ever expect to play out naturally. It's not even something you would expect to play out via mate choice, because what you end up seeing is the male genetics will change. So the female genetics, of course, continue for reasons that I imagine will be relatively obvious, but the male genetics change. So you've got all of this like big thing, big ball coming to a head with the tilt towards the left that we've seen across much of the West. And now with the juxtaposition between what happened with George Floyd and now what's happening with Henry Nowak, we have like this big collision point. And so it is a UK that is being torn apart right now by immigration policy, both from the left and the right, by the way, which is probably worth talking about today. But I want to first establish why Nowak has become this flashpoint. But there is a big bundle of context that I think has to be talked about. And if this show is going to bring value, I think it's going to be that, being able to zoom back out and give a bit more of the broader context, not to get sucked into the narrative, but just to lay things out really fast in terms of what happened. So on December 3rd, 2025, 18-year-old Henry Nowak got in an altercation with 23-year-old Vikram Digwa. Digwa stabbed Nowak 5 times with his 8-inch ceremonial blade, including a fatal wound that lacerated Nowak's heart. When the police arrived, Digwa claimed to be the victim of a racist attack. So when Nowak said that he had been stabbed, the police officer said that he didn't believe him. You're going to hear that in the body cam footage. And so instead of addressing his wounds, he ends up putting him in handcuffs, rolling him over, which may or may not have contributed to that, but you can see how uncomfortable Nowak gets. I would presume either because it changes the way that the blood is pooling in his lungs or may have put additional pressure on his heart or something, but it's instant. You see him pushing back out of when you watch it, at least for me, it was very distressing to see how like sort of physically uncomfortable he becomes. Nowak complains multiple times. I think somebody counted. He says 8 or 9 times that he's having a hard time breathing. I think he says 4 times that he's been stabbed. So the fact that they don't believe him, they don't go to treat him or anything is part of what's leading to the outrage. We're going to show the footage in a second. You're going to see, if you choose to watch it, you'll see Nowak just bleed out right there in front of the cops as they're handcuffing him. It happens pretty fast. The footage is horrifying. It's one of those that when you watch it, it's going to sit with you for a minute. So I will say everybody should, if you know how you respond to this kind of thing, be thoughtful before you watch it. If you don't know how you respond to this kind of thing, this might not be the one to dip your toes into. But understanding, anyway, you guys need to decide whether you want to look at it or not. So if you want to understand the backlash, the riots, you're going to need to have some sense of what happened here. So I do think it is worth looking at the footage. Obviously, the comparisons to George Floyd have been pretty immediate. And after we watch this, we'll talk about how that's playing out exactly. All right, so here is the footage.
What's happened to you, all right?
Been stabbed.
You've been stabbed? Whereabouts? I don't think you have, mate. Hand?
I can't breathe.
Put the hand in the cuff, mate.
Yeah.
This is like
Oh,
numerous times this has happened to us. We've been walking, we've parked multiple times we've had people racistly attack us and nothing happens.
He's saying he's been stabbed, so
Where
let's
is it
just
you
check
think you've
him.
been stabbed? In the face? Oh no, but we have to check, don't we?
No.
In the face?
Just get these to back off, get their details on that, and I'll keep hold of him.
Please, brother, I can't breathe.
Should we
No, keep you on your side, mate. You better retrieve then.
So, yeah.
Saying to him, I'm keeping him on his side. We were sat up when we had him here, but he didn't like it. What's your name, mate? At the moment you are under arrest, and that's for assault, so you do not have to say anything, may harm in defence. If you do not mention when questioned, it's up to which you later rely in court. Anything you do say may be given in evidence, alright? It's going to be sick, I think.
She notices in a second.
What's his name?
So I just want you to call it.
Yeah, we've got this male, he's
just-
been beat up. Are we able to get an ambulance, please?
His pupils aren't even reacting.
Yeah. Okay, so that is the video. Thankfully, at least, Digwa was convicted of murder and sentenced to life with a minimum of 21 years. But the two-tiered policing that's evident in the body cam footage has sparked just absolutely massive outrage, leading to large-scale riots in the town where the murder occurred. The UK right now is a powder keg, partly because of rapid demographic shifts, which is going to create some anxiety. People have to have some way to metabolize that. Again, this is something that's playing out all over the place. And then also partly because of anti-white bias, exactly what you're seeing on display here in the body cam footage. Now, for a long time, people who've complained about anti-white bias were told that they were crazy, that that was an absurd complaint, that racism isn't possible against white people. But the Nowak incident has made it impossible to deny any longer, especially given comparisons on how the government and, quite frankly, citizens at large responded to George Floyd. So from a British perspective, think about that. George Floyd is not British, and yet the response was very large, very dramatic, even in England. It's very different than how they're responding to Nowak. So many in law enforcement and the government took a knee when George Floyd died, but they've remained almost totally silent over Nowak. While Starmer was forced to finally speak out on the issue, he certainly did not take a knee, simply said that the issue needed to be investigated for police misconduct. There's a video that I saw, but I don't think I pulled it, where protesters were taking a knee in front of the cops to see if they would respond in the same way that they did with George Floyd. They didn't. That was another thing that then got them furious and led to the later escalation in tensions. To put a fine point on the rage that's driving the riots, 5 years ago, when Britain had heard the words, "I can't breathe," coming from a black man, politicians knelt for the cameras, footballers knelt before kickoff, season after season, by the way, offering a minute of silence for George Floyd, a man who died 4,000 miles away, who wasn't British, in a case with no proven racial motive. Now, when they hear the same words from a white British kid, it's deafening silence. It's no kneeling, no campaign for us to learn the tragedy of racism. And there's a stated sense of, we all know why Nowak wasn't given the attention. The people in charge, and this is the know why, the people in charge have built a hierarchy of victimhood, and Henry Nowak is a white male and therefore sits at the bottom of that. And this growing racial division is not a problem that is just going to go away by trying to force equity via redistributive justice or two-tier policing. And ultimately, there's going to need to be some way of convincing people that the right way to deal with this is to approach each situation, assuming that you're dealing with individuals and not statistics, that we have to assume that everyone should be judged by their actions and not by their phenotype. And yet we're moving in the opposite direction in an attempt to make right the wild injustices of the past. We have now swung so far in the opposite direction that we're still judging people by the color of their skin, just now on the opposite side. And it is clearly deranging. And yeah, so to look at the world and assume that now racism is only against white people would be foolish. But to look at the world and assume that the right way to solve this problem is to be racist against some people to try to create some sort of historical balance is just madness. It will not play out well. You will get more of this with aggression.
It was definitely a tragedy, and it's definitely sad. I think the comparisons to George Floyd are overblown. People just see "I can't breathe" and think it's the exact same situation. I think the situations are different. I think first and foremost, it's interesting to me, and this is Andrew St. Just talking. This is not the words of impact theory or reflective of Tom Bilyeu or anybody else in this room. I'm standing 10 toes down on what I want to say. I think that it's the reason that the police, the people aren't kneeling, and the reason why there isn't this worldwide movement is because there's sweeping justice that's happening already. There are people right now in 2026 that still think George Floyd died of a fentanyl overdose. In 2026 right now, he was the person who stabbed him is now doing life in prison. The police officer that was
Nowak.
Yeah, the person who stabbed Nowak is doing life in prison. The police officer that was involved in the incident has resigned. Nowak was found trespassing on somebody else's property, and they were the ones that called the police. So for it to be, he was just white and they just had hopped on him. George Floyd was standing outside in a public place, hanging out with his friend. It was a different situation. So with anybody, if you're ever called by police and you are the one trespassing, you're going to be the one restrained. Now, I can understand if they were in front of Nowak's house, it would have been different. I can understand if they were in downtown London in front of Big Ben, it would have been different. But again, we just heard "I can't breathe," and we said, oh my gosh, this is just like George Floyd. But one thing that everybody is very, very accurate about is, yes, this is like George Floyd because the police are the one in the wrong. And just like when we were trying to say that Derek Chauvin was in the wrong, no, he wasn't. He's a fentanyl addict who's this, and this, and that. Now we're saying, yes, the police are in the wrong, but it's because he's a white guy and they're wrong because they treat the police are in the wrong. The trading around the police is wrong. The way that they handle situations is wrong. But to me, Justice has been served because the killer is already taken care of. The police officer is already out, and that's it. Whereas with the George Floyd situation, Derek Chauvin had to go through, had administrative leave the day after it. He then had to come back and then be forced to be press charges against him. It wasn't like it was a 1, 2, 3, foregone conclusion.
Okay. Heard on all of that. My read on the situation is that there's an underlying issue that will have to be reckoned with, whether it's on this show or not becomes irrelevant.
Yeah.
And that is there. And I'll put the finest point on it that I can. And if you see anywhere where you think my logic is not sound, definitely let me know. But what I see playing out is we have looked at the sins of the past, which have, obviously slavery has nothing to do with the people that are alive today, but there are some people caught up in Jim Crow, to be sure, that are still alive. But people are being told a story of their past that creates this sense of there's an original sin to being white.
Okay, hold on. There's one thing right now, because the chat is like popping off really, really bad.
Sure.
And even in the chat right now, somebody's like, yes, he did die of an overdose.
Okay.
I don't think anybody here has any. I never said that. I agree with the dude who stabbed him. Digwa did stab him. He died a murderous death by somebody who is now doing life in prison. To me, that's justice served. I thought that's what we wanted. When a murderer murders, he gets captured, and that's the wrap, right? Now we saw on camera a cop with a knee on his neck until this person passed out and died. And then people are still saying it's an overdose, he's a crack addict, and all these other things. So you get why, as much as I want to talk about the original sin and I want to move on, I'm still on step one, and can't even all agree on step one.
So I think the reason that the chat can't agree on step one is that we're not talking about the real issue that's causing the outrage. Not that, because there's two conversations to be had. There's like a forensic analysis of why did George Floyd die? Why did Nowak die? Like, for instance, it's very possible that Henry Nowak was going to bleed to death no matter what the police did. When you watch that footage, he dies so fast that I don't know, even if they were Johnny on the spot, like did everything they could, it is very possible. And there are reports coming out. I don't remember if the reports were from the coroner himself, but reports coming out saying that the laceration to his heart was such, no matter what the police did, he was going to die. That was a fatal wound from the second that it happened. So in the end, what we're seeing with the police may have nothing to do with his death. It may be purely representative of the other issue going on, which is that, and this is now me saying what I think that issue is, that society is being fed a narrative that is so wholly toxic that it guarantees violence. And it guarantees violence along the dumbest lines I can imagine, which I'll say are ideological, because it actually won't break along race. It'll break along right-left. And so for me, it will wear the clothing of racism, but it's really over here victimizer. And so anybody who buys into the paradigm that this is all about victims and oppressors, oh, and by the way, you can map that to race, that will derange society to the point of violence, for sure, like mass scale violence. So I'm like, okay, we can certainly have the conversation over here. Like, I'll make a statement just as a calibrating thing to see if you agree. I think both of the following statements are correct. George Floyd wouldn't have died had Derek Chauvin not kept his knee on his neck. And George Floyd wouldn't have died from said knee on his neck had he not had as many different drugs in his system as he did. Now, I'm not a medical examiner, so it's possible I'm wrong. And it's possible that that isn't true and that it literally was they cut the blood supply to his brain and he could have been healthy as an ox and that was game over. Possible. But the reason you see a debate there is because people are looking at that saying, bro, he had so much fentanyl in his system, you can't look at that and say that him having his knee on him is the thing that caused him to die, that a healthy person in that situation would not have died. Now, that to me is just not an interesting conversation. That to me is what the courts are meant to figure out. I'm not going to go deep enough on the forensic evidence to even answer that question. So the people having that argument, that's like you've got to go full down the rabbit hole of the autopsy forensic evidence.
Can I say what you just said to me and see if it lands the same?
Sure.
Henry Nowak would have died regardless of the response time of the police officer.
Yeah.
And then this is also true. Henry Nowak would not have died if he didn't hop over the fence and harassed somebody.
That's possible. I don't know about the actual exchange between the two of them. Now, given that that guy was convicted, I'm going to guess that Henry Nowak did not do anything that where Digwa's response could be seen as self-defense, because there are for sure things that Henry could have done where I'd be like, yes, stabbing him was the right answer. But given that it has played out in the courts, I'm going to guess that that isn't true. But right now, just for the next like 90 seconds, what I want to make sure that you and I separate is that there are very two different arguments to be had. One is the merits of the police physical brutality. One is the merits of Digwa stabbing Nowak. Like those are legitimate things that played out in court. And it is right and just that those things be handled in a court of law where people can make their case. Like those are very important things. Yeah. And if the courts decided that George Floyd died simply because there was a knee on his neck, then Chauvin goes to jail and that's that. Now, some people are going to cry foul that that didn't play well. That he was railroaded because this like was so hot that somebody had to go to jail for it. Fine, that still needs to play out in the court system. I understand why people are going to push back on that or whatever. Yeah. But the only reason I understand why they're going to push back on it is the argument that I want to have, which is that there's a thing happening in culture. And that thing happening in culture is definable as my interpretation of it is that the left has for a very long time now, call it somewhere between 30 and 50 years, been largely through educational institutions propagating a very Marxist framework, which is that there are the oppressors and the oppressed, victims and victimizers. And that's the only way to understand the world, and that maps to race. And so if you see a white person, you can automatically interpret them as an oppressor. And I'm saying that's why there's riots. The riots aren't because a kid got stabbed to death, because people get stabbed to death all the time. The reason there were riots that didn't pop off until we saw the body cam footage is that the kid says, I can't breathe, I've been stabbed. And the guy goes, I don't think you were, mate. And so now you've got people going, hold on a second. These guys are literally being trained to take, like cops are being trained in the police force to absorb the frame of oppressed and oppressor based on race. Now you put that into the larger framework of...
Just so because I want to clarify that last sentence. Yep. So you think the cop said, I don't think you have, mate, because he thinks white people are oppressors, and not, I don't think you have, mate, because I'm calling to a domestic abuse, domestic response. And the person who I'm saying is in the wrong is the person that I'm pinning down.
That is correct.
So you think if let's just use another example. If I was down there in the UK and I was like, I've been stabbed, mate, he would have been like, stop everything, call the ambulance. We need to get ambulance. Like that, you think that would have been the response?
That is correct.
Copy. Okay. Continue.
So now I expect that to be debated, but those are... I
understand completely what you're saying.
Those are the two debates. So debate one, merits of the like autopsy, physical, was George Floyd suffocated? Would any person in that same situation have died, or was this a fentanyl thing? Cool. Very reasonable, just not the debate that I think lights the entire world on fire. The reason I think these guys are rioting is the other debate, which is, are people now being treated differently based on the color of their skin? I would say yes. And I would say that that's ratcheting up in ways that are starting to become really dangerous from a people will push back. So just like, rightly, during the civil rights movement in America, you had not just the black people rise up, but you had people around them say, yeah, this is intolerable. We have to rise up. But that was done in what I would say, and I'm not a scholar of it, but I've seen enough to feel pretty comfortable in this. It was done in the most honorable, moral way possible, where it was, we're not going to fight back. We're going to let the dogs bite us, the fire hoses hit us, and we're going to show just how grotesque this has become. And it worked. And we won the soul of America. And my generation grew up in we won the soul of America. And so the vision that we all had of ourselves was, Martin Luther King Jr. was right. We're going to judge people by the content of their character. And the whole idea of being colorblind has become was like, just imagine for a second growing up thinking that's the coolest thing that you could do is you judge the people before we started rolling. For me, I feel exactly about race the way that I feel about LA, which is that it used to be ass, then it got awesome, and I was here to watch it become awesome, and now it's become ass again. And I'm just like, the tragedy of that loop is part of what makes it heartbreaking. And being my age, and this is where we confess that Drew and I actually are different ages. Drew is substantively younger than I am, that I do wonder if that also plays, obviously the fact that you're black and I'm white plays a huge role, but I also wonder if some of it is, I lived through a loop of it really felt different, at least for a white, and now race is on my radar all day, every day. It's fucking wild because people fucking talk about it all the time. So anyway, with that context, and then the fact that it's like really becoming exacerbated in the UK because they're farther down the road of immigration not being metabolized well than we are. Like, you know how I feel about that. To me, that's fact.
Should people be judged by the color of their skin? No. And I think that that's been a pretty consistent message from my side for as long as I've been alive. And I think that a lot of people who are saying judging people by the color of their skin is wrong, I think that's the entire point. I think we can all agree on that. We shouldn't be doing that. Racism is bad. Yes. You shouldn't treat anybody differently just because of their skin color. Yes. Point made. I'm going to give you an example, Tom, that is kind of in your wheelhouse, like economics, right? It's an economy problem. You have not, and this is not me picking on you, this is just giving you an example, right? Gas prices have fluctuated in the last 3 weeks in a way that we haven't seen in years. It hasn't even crossed your radar. I don't really drive. When I Uber everywhere, it's whatever. I don't necessarily have that inclination. When we had the egg shortage, that was going crazy last year. Eggs are what? That's crazy. Like, egg prices are crazy, but the DoorDash delivery didn't stop. It was still on your front doorstep. Those decisions didn't be made. So even though there is a narrative that prices are rising, that people are struggling, that things are going bad, there's certain people that are like, oh, well, it didn't hit my, like, it sucks that my DoorDash bill went up 15%, but okay, whatever. Like, you swipe it away because you have, you're in a different economic background. You have, you worked hard, you grew your wealth. So now there's certain things that you don't have to worry about. You're not in that survival mode. Where some of your old employees back in the Quest days, gas price is $5. I might not be able to go to work. They're stressing. They're feeling a little bit more of the anxiety than you might be feeling. I use that same point for racism. While yes, in the 80s and 90s, I feel like America was a lot more IRL, touch grass. And I think that in that when you're outside and you actually talk to people, half of these people that are calling me all types of names right now, if we were all outside hanging out, they wouldn't say any of these things. I remember one of the people that's going crazy on me right now, me and him were just talking about muscle cars 3 months ago and talking about our love for cars. So if me and him were just in a gas station, I was filling up my Mustang and he was filling up his car, we would be boys at the pump. So a lot of this is engineered. A lot of this is social media, like extremization of it. Like, I can't say a movie's bad. I have to say it's the worst movie ever. I can't say that this person's head big. They have the biggest head in the world. Everything has to be the most exaggerated adjective just so I could get the clicks and engagement and feed myself because it's an economic problem and we're all broke and we're trying to figure it out. So with that being the base of where we are with all this like minutia right here, I think the narrative that like racism was done and then now it's coming back, I don't think that that's completely accurate. I feel like it wasn't front page news anymore because the news cycle moved on. Just like we moved on from the Iran news cycle, just like we moved on from the Epstein news cycle. This is the biggest thing in the world. There's a bunch of pedophiles and they work in the government, and now we don't even blink an eye. And at that point, when Martin Luther King was getting sicked on the dogs in daytime news, this is the biggest thing ever. We have to talk about it. And then it stopped being a story. We moved on to the Korean War. We moved on to the de-dollarization. We moved on to globalism. We moved on to the Gulf War. We moved on to Kuwait. We moved on to Bill Clinton getting head in the White House. We moved on to all these other things that were bigger news stories than the racist things that were still happening in America throughout that point. I'm trying very hard to be calm because every time I have rebuttals, people call me emotional. So I'm not sweating. My hands are down to my side. I hope I have done everything. I've checked all the boxes so that way I've been a good representation.
Chat's making me. I'm getting like this in the chat right now.
Chat's getting what?
I'm getting mad at chat because I feel like, to me, when I look at this, what killed Henry was a cop who made a bad call, and calling it anti-white racism to me, I'm getting emotional, but lets the cop hide behind this culture war instead of actually facing the consequences, which is after watching that body cam footage, these cops did not follow protocol.
It's bad copy.
It's bad cops.
Bad policing.
And like, you know, even if we want to throw the argument of racism in here, racism arguably is a systemic issue, right?
So
it's not
really fast.
an issue.
Let me see if
case.
I can redirect, because you guys, one, I want to acknowledge your points so that you feel seen and heard, Drew, especially you. You took time to really lay that out. So what I say not to refute anything that you're saying. I say that what you guys are saying, maybe not Ryan, maybe Ryan I am about to directly clash with, but with you, it is, you've made great points that I think sit to the side of the conversation that I'm trying to have. And by the way, I'm not trying to convince you or anybody in the chat of a point yet, other than if you don't understand why these guys are popping off, why they're rioting, what's about to play out over the next 5 to 7 years is going to be very confusing to you. What's going to play out over the next 5 to 7 years on this particular topic, because it does broaden out when you get into generalized immigration, and then it's going to go all the way to Japan. But if you understand that, as I understood it from you, Tom, because racism does not affect you, you don't understand that it never went away, and that for somebody who's still in the thick of it, and I'm sure if I were reading the chat, I would see you're still in the thick of it, that it just feels so different. And so I completely concede that point. Now what I'm trying to say is that wasn't the point I was trying to make. The point I'm trying to make is that I believe that in a truly beautiful way that gets deranged by the fact that humans are pathological in their ability. They don't exist in a permanent state, but we all have the ability to become pathological. But I think something started beautiful. That was to say, ooh, God, slavery was horrifying. We basically stole this country from the Native Americans, some even from the French, from the Mexicans for sure. And so we don't feel good about that. And we need a way to cleanse ourselves of this early sin. And we need to self-flagellate. And we need to understand that we must pay recompense. And so that's why you would see politicians like in a dashiki washing black people's feet. It was a way like, how do I show you that I get it and that I'm really a good person, and that in some way, shape, or form, I'm doing the thing that I need to do to repent for my sins. I mean, it's really a fascinating thing. This was what I obviously viewed as mythology. For you, this is reality. But the crucifixion of Christ was, hey, this guy paid for all of your sins moving forward for all time. So we don't end up in the death spiral that I see left atheists dragging us into, because they have no concept that Christ already washed us of these sins. Correct. And so now the thing we're dealing with is white people who feel that they have this original sin yoke placed upon them that does not feel just and is now finding its way into actual systems. So to Ryan, I will say, you guys have incredible points about, I don't like the way the police handled this. Now, as one reminder, I will just say, Henry Nowak died because he was stabbed. Okay? It will, I think, help people from a thought exercise standpoint to look at this as the police may have done a horrible job, but Nowak was going to die no matter what. As a thought exercise. Maybe down the road, we realize, nope, it was all the cops and they could have saved his life. But for right now, take that. It's a harder view that we need to take. So he was going to die no matter what. Cool. So let's not worry about the cops so much, even though I get that's the flashpoint. But let's look at the politicians. And there's a great tweet by Konstantin Kisin, if we can pull that up.
Let's jump into that one.
So what he is trying to orient people towards is look at the politician's response. Look at how people respond when it's a black man that dies versus when a white man. Okay, so I'm just going to read the tweet. So this is from Konstantin Kisin. Britain had a moment of silence for George Floyd. Our politicians kneeled en masse to show their outrage at his killing. I can't breathe became a slogan. George Floyd died on the other side of the world. He wasn't British. Henry Nowak was British, and his treatment by the police was shocking and negligent in the extreme. Yet there is no minute of silence. There is no coordinated public campaign. There is no kneeling at sporting events, and we all know why. During the summer of BLM, some people said all lives matter. This was treated as the highest form of racism, and anyone who said this was immediately canceled. Why? Because the people in charge don't actually think all lives matter in the same way. They have created a racial hierarchy of victimhood where a career criminal who died through mistreatment by police in a foreign country with zero evidence of racism, like George Floyd, is automatically sanctified because of the color of his skin. And Henry Nowak, a British man, one of ours, is automatically dismissed and ignored because of the color of his. This is the ugly fruit of so-called anti-racism, an obsession with race that has created a two-tier society which treats people differently because of the color of their skin. It needs to stop.
I love how
that post has gone hyper viral. By the way,
I love how we call it anti-racism, an obsession with race that treats people differently because of the color of your skin. Now that's just racism. We don't need a new one.
Well, but I think the reason he puts that in scare quotes is the Kibram X Kendi idea of there is no not racist. So there's racist and there's anti-racist. And to be anti-racist, and I haven't read the book, but my understanding is to be anti-racism is to go in the opposite direction, to give people of color preferential treatment, better treatment. I remember when vaccines were given out that they were being preferentially given to people of color. And so it's things like that that would be considered anti-racist.
During
COVID. Yeah.
I don't want to get down that rabbit hole.
So anyway, it's things like that, or let's say they're all delusional. It's the perception of things like that that are creating this backlash. And so that's what he's getting at very specifically, is to overcorrect and to not fight for everybody being treated based on what they did, instead of in any way, shape, or form taking their ethnicity into account at all. So this post has 32.2 million views. And if you're not an X user, you may not understand how massive that is. But that's absolutely massive. Now, I'm sure that there are plenty of people that are clapping back on him and saying that this is an absolutely terrible take. But there are likely to be plenty of people that agree with him. But I think this really nails the thing that we ignore at our own peril. I do not need anybody to agree with it. I'm just saying we're all going to have to contend with it because this is a rapidly growing sentiment. And I think it is real for the reasons that I laid out. It's a Marxist belief system that has to do with oppressor and oppressor. I think that it's the thing that is the world's most black of black pills to me is that I think this has been moving through the institutions for at least 30 years, maybe 50 years. And so the number of people that have just been subtly like given this idea that that's the right way to look at the world, I just think it's so massive. And so when people, like when I see people dunking on people that hold that left view, even though I think it is a very destructive view, assume for a second that they're well-meaning, that they really love people and they really want people to understand that this is the right way to move forward. That is far more terrifying, because if they're really just cynical idiots, that's a little bit easier to defuse that bomb. But if they're people with a full heart, full of love, they love their friends, they love the people that they're fighting for, and they're just fighting in a way that plays out in this hyper-destructive fashion, that's way more scary for me.
I'm also starting to realize that a lot of people don't go outside. Like there's a lot of nuance to the conversation that we're not talking about. So let's talk about Black Lives Matter for a second. And yes, Black Lives Matter was started by 3 women who apparently are lesbians and apparently ran off with 40% of the money. Another 40% was donated to Act Blue, which is a Democratic lobbying firm. It got co-opted by the left. I understand that. But before it got politicized, because no politician will waste a good tragedy. So just like how Rupert Lowe is doing laps in London right now, Tommy Robinson is recruiting right now, using this as recruitment fodder. Everybody's using this for their personal gain in their inside. KK is going to release a video. It's going to do numbers, and it's going to get AdSense. It's going to be 1 out of 10 on his YouTube channel. So everybody's going to use this and speak to their audience and grow their audience for respective whatever reason. So let's take out all the politicization of it. Let's take out all the monetization of it, and let's just talk about the people that were on the street because of the visceral reaction that happened during that summer. The summer of BLM was a string of police-involved brutalities where Black people were murdered in various fashions, ways, whether it was a no-knock warrant, whether it was a little kid in the park playing with a toy, whether it was George Floyd knee on the neck, a string of them that were connected. The police were all given administrative leave. There was no justice. So Black Lives Matter was a call for justice. Black Lives Matter, so you should prosecute these crimes. Black Lives Matter, they shouldn't be minimized. They shouldn't be dismissed. Black Lives Matter, when something wrong happens, we deserve our time in court too. That's where Black Lives Matter came from. Again, I know it been perverted. I know Trump uses it. I know there's a bunch of people who only are on Truth Social who had never heard that story of Black Lives Matter. I'm not making this up. I'm Black and I know when it started. I was there in the beginning. Like this is how it catch flame. This is how they did their first round of recruitment. This is what the message was. When I'm saying somebody got murdered, they deserve justice, and you're saying, well, everybody deserves justice. Everybody does deserve justice. So let's start with this person who was just murdered. But it's never, let's talk about that person that just murdered. It becomes, no, everybody deserves justice. And they walk out the room talking about everybody else instead of the person that we started this riot for. I'll bring you back to this specific situation. The person who killed Henry Nowak is going to jail for life. Everybody in the chat is agreeing that Henry Nowak died of a stabbing. Nobody's saying he's died of fentanyl. Nobody's saying he got choked out by the police. Nobody's saying he tripped and bumped his head, and if he wasn't there, it wasn't his fault. Nobody's saying, well, if he was just in his house, if he wasn't a criminal, it would have been fine. Everybody's immediately going to the empathy. So to me, justice was served. Now, is there an institutional problem that we need to clean up? Absolutely, and I'm here for it. I'll have all the conversation. Is there a societal problem that we need to? Absolutely, and I'm here for the conversation. But to act like Black Lives Matter wasn't about justice in the beginning, and that's what people were fighting for because it was a lack of justice, because there's still politicians involved in those cases that are home free. They're chilling with their parents. They're eating Thanksgiving dinner. They don't think about it. Whereas this family, the Digwa family, they're never going to see their son again. He's going to live in prison, 21 years minimum. Henry Nowak, his father, I feel sorry. I would never want to see, you're never supposed to be a parent burying your kid. I have as much empathy as I can, but from a legal perspective, you got the result that you wanted. The bad guy got caught. He went to jail. He had his time in the court, and he's gonna die under the jail. It's not good because your son's not back, but it's the second best thing that you can ask for. If somebody violently murdered Lisa, you would want that person under the jail if you can't put your hands on him personally. And that's what was the result of that. So this is where it's coming from for me. So again, I understand the internet of it all. I understand the Trump of it all. I understand the woke of it all. I understand the purple haired lefties. I understand the wokeism. I know communism. I'm not talking about any of that stuff. Let's talk about the people that were killed because of the bad policing.
Yeah.
And the people that were killed for bad policing, the police should be held accountable. The people's family should get a lawsuit. They should get a bag. Henry Nowak's family should definitely get a bag from the police. They need to sue them. I don't know how UK courts work, but you should be getting something from the police because it was your fault. You handled that terribly. So people are thinking I'm arguing that like I'm happy Henry died or that I wanted the dude with the knife to Digwa to be free. Like, no, you deserve to go to jail. And that's a dumb law that Muslims can carry knives, but white people can't carry knives. Like, that's a dumb law too. Let's change that too. So I feel like people think I'm
just
arguing.
for as a fucking clarification, I don't think Sikhs are Muslim. Someone will have to tell me if it's like a random.
But there's religious exceptions. That way you can carry a certain type of ceremonial dagger. That exception should be removed.
Sikhs are not Muslim. Sikhs are. Oh, it doesn't say what they are actually.
Hold on, right? I forgot even the whole Sikh community came out and condemned Digwa. So it's not even like it's not even like all the Sikh people at the church were like, yeah, get that white boy. We did it. We up now.
Right.
They condemned him. So that's why I'm like, who else do you want to be mad? Like, do you?
So but I am explaining that part. Yeah. That's why I'm saying. Like, so Drew, every point you make is bang on, and I do worry that we're having two slightly different conversations. They're close enough that many people are going to think we're having the same conversation. I will try to reorient one more time with you as a proxy. So one, if people in the chat are saying dumb things, don't look at the chat for like the next few minutes because it will, I think some part of you is still debating the chat instead of, and I think the service that we can offer the viewing public right now, whether they exist in the chat or later down the road.
That specific one, I was debating KK in that one paragraph during the summer of BLM to the zero evidence of racism like George Floyd. Those two paragraphs, I feel like it's...
Okay, so then that's perfect. Thank you for the reorientation. So let's talk about that because hiding in that paragraph is exactly the thing I am saying as a society we're going to have to grapple with, and telling white people to choke on it, to be quiet, they don't understand, it will not work. It will rebound hard. Like, look at the Rupert Lowe situation is a perfect example.
That's the rape.
Rupert Lowe. If you pull up, we're not going to show, because Rupert Lowe talking about the rape gang stuff, we will get to, but first I want to look at the one where I said Rupert Lowe posts a chilling
promise.
Okay, so Rupert Lowe is the leader of something called Restore Britain, and I think in many ways he is a reaction to two things. Number one, unchecked immigration, which is just a fool's paradise.
And we haven't talked about that too. I think that's, like you said, that's a good point. Like, that's been floating in the background in this conversation.
Yes, for sure. And we will certainly, I mean, in the coming years, we're going to be talking about this a lot. So that's one, is unchecked immigration. And then the other is racism. So the kind of anti-white racism, even if you will only grant me the perception of, there is a growing perception, sincere perception, in the white community across much of the West, but very aggressively in the UK, that's growing. And so he then, with that, and we will get to the thing that prompted him to write this, because the grooming gang scandal is at a level that is really hard to even wrap one's head around. But first, I'll read his words, hear them, so that when I say that this will be met with a backlash that is going to be horrible, that hopefully I can convince everybody we have to have the conversation about that paragraph in KK's thing. Okay, so we're going to return to KK's post in just 1 second. But first, this is Rupert Lowe, the head of Restore Britain, which is growing in popularity in the UK. Okay, he said, for those mainly Pakistani men who have inflicted the very worst pain imaginable on innocent British children, please know this. There will come a day when the power of the British state that concealed your atrocious crimes for so very long is turned against you. It will be swift. It will be brutal. It will be severe. Because if Restore Britain gets a sniff of power, there will be a reckoning. I promise you that. We will show you the same mercy you showed our girls. Your race or religion will not protect you any longer. A message will be sent that is heard right across the world. If you rape our children, you will pay for it, and you will pay for it with everything. This is what Restore Britain will do. Okay, now, I know what's underlying this. And that somebody would say something like this to people that raped their daughters, yeah, 100%. I would expect nothing less. He shows restraint for how I would have behaved had it been my children. So I get the energy, but I want people to understand how chilling of a statement that is coming from an elected official who would like to rise to the highest position in government. And I'm saying that energy represents a rage and an anger that is growing. And now the question needs to become why? Understand it first. Once it's understood, then debate its merits. If the merits aren't there, find a way to defuse the bomb. Because you certainly do not want that growing, whether it's justified or unjustified. This is way more Malcolm X than Martin Luther King Jr. And I would really like to hear my rhetoric coming in the Martin Luther King Jr. flavor, personally. So
It's a
with
populist
that,
moment, Tom. It's a populist moment.
it is a populist moment, and I understand I will never be a good populist leader. But if we go back now to KK, the thing I'm trying to get people to understand is Drew makes very sound, rational arguments for, and I'm summarizing you, so if I get this wrong, definitely speak up. But as a black man witnessing BLM, this felt like finally somebody is speaking up for us. There was a string of things for which it was very self-evident we could point at and say justice is not being done, and it is not being done because of the color of our skin. And now people are saying that they're also hard done by. Yeah, granted. However, like, why are we trying to move away from this thing that we're trying to get people to pay attention to? That it gets co-opted down the road is beside the point. Drew is making a statement that I think is very valid, which is that there is no doubt that at times, I think black people unquestionably are going to be judged by their skin and not by their character. Now, the debate that I'm trying to get everybody to understand that must be had is, in an attempt to cleanse the white person from their original sin of racism and slavery, have we now adopted something called anti-racism, where it's a form of justice acquisition by which you elevate people of color and depress white people. Now, whether you think that, if you say that doesn't happen at all, then I would say, woo, what I'm seeing does show it definitely happens. Now, if we want to debate the severity of it, that's a totally different thing. So I'm just saying, this is growing and growing and growing, and trying to cancel or dismiss people would be a mistake, because the energy is filtering up to elected officials who have a level of aggression that I hope we don't want to see play out. That I hope we find people who say, law and order matter. We are absolutely going to hold criminals to account. We are not going to bury things out of fear of being called racist. We're going to uncover things like this in the future instantly. We're going to have truth and reconciliation around the grooming gangs, all of that. But as Nelson Mandela would say, even though these people have done us a great injustice, this is a wild paraphrase, even though these people have done us a great injustice, the only path forward is together. And I beg people to read The Long Walk to Freedom. This is a man who's put in prison for 27 years for race in a legitimately, nobody denies it, apartheid state. And when he came out, he put white people on his security detail. And they were like, bro, they're going to get you killed. And he's like, the only path forward is together. So to me, if we can't even get people to take that growing sentiment seriously without needing to agree, but to take it seriously and to investigate and to meet them with a reasoned argument as to why they shouldn't feel that way, or to help them feel seen so that we can diffuse some of it, something, but to ignore it, to say that you shouldn't feel that way and we also feel that way, it becomes the exact reason that you're frustrated that people would hit Black Lives Matter with All Lives Matter is now being felt on the opposite side. And so just as infuriating as it was, I'm sure, for many people in the Black community to hear that, it is now infuriating on the opposite side. And just as I would say to white people to dismiss Black people, it's just as foolish to dismiss white people. And boy, do I wish that we weren't even having this conversation along the race lines, because this really is ideology. This is way closer mapped to populist left and right than it is to race, but baby steps.
My ex's mom had a saying, those who cannot hear need to feel. And I think that this is one of those moments where when people are telling you what they're going through, it doesn't really hit the same. If I'm telling you I need help with something, you're like, ah, well, you could do this and you could do this. And we have 1,000 reasons why they could do a better job at what they're doing. And then when you step into that position and it hits you directly, now it's like, what do you mean? Y'all should be mad. We should be, we demand justice. And I'm just like, oh, yes, we do. Oh, we need to stop judging by people's skin? Yes, we do. I agree. Is racism bad? Yes, it is, KK. I'm right there with you. I think racism is very bad.
Yes.
I've just been saying this for 40 years. You've been saying this for a tweet over the weekend. So, so it's one of those things where now that we are all feeling it, hopefully we can now come together and realize, hey, maybe we overcorrected. Maybe we can just treat people by the integrity of their character. That's the way I want the world to be.
You and me both. And I certainly get the element of snark at the edge of that statement. The only thing I would say is when somebody comes to your side, to first make them eat crow is unwise, in my opinion. So I get it. And I'm sure in private conversations, all of us have those moments where we're like, I've been fucking saying this forever. But when somebody wakes up to your cause, to welcome them is probably far more wise than to slap them around and say, I got here a long time before you.
I'm on everybody's side who's on justice's side. That's it right there. That's it right
there.
there. We talked about this for an hour and 3 minutes. Wow.
I got a good clip though.
All right, we had a couple super chats. I'm gonna try to get through them, but we still have a whole show to do.
Yes. Okay. We got 7 to get through, so we're gonna try to speed through. Marusha Dark 316 says the new M- is in quotes. That's not bad thing. It's good thing. Anytime I end quotes. Anytime I hear that, I can't help but think LLM speak. A lot of your deep dives use phrases like this, which might be leading people to think AI wrote them.
Wow, that's so interesting. So, man, do I do that a lot? That would be shocking to me. I am so sensitive to AI verbal tics because the way that I write my deep dives is I go back and forth with the outline. What do I want it to be with the AI, arguing the points, making sure the data's all there. And then I go, okay, cool. We've locked this now. We've got a detailed outline. Now script the intro. Then I go in and I make all the changes. I remove all the weird speak. Sometimes I'll have to adjust the argument. It might not be making it quite right. And then I just feed it back to it and then say, write the next section, so on and so forth. And so we go through. And man, when I say, I try to remove all of that. But if there are still bits in there, in no way, shape, or form am I trying to hide that I am writing these with AI. I would never be able to write them at the speed that I do if I didn't, nor would the argumentation be as strong because I don't have anybody to fight me on the ideas. So, I mean, I'll just take the feedback as I'm still missing some. But man, I hate that one so much. I'm shocked. It's like finding out that you say the word like a lot, but you've worked so hard to stop saying the word like, and someone's like, you say like a lot. You're like, God damn it. So, okay, cool. Criticism heard, received. I will have to work harder. That's wild. Man, did I think I'd removed all of those verbal tics. I am so judgmental of other people when I hear the AI verbal tics. Quietly is another one. Like, you're not going to catch the word quietly in one of my deep dives for that very reason. But clearly, there are other things that are still in there.
You just go in and purposely take out the quietlies that you like subconsciously type then?
Yeah. And even when I actually think it quietly, I'm like, nope, can't have it. It's just become such a verbal tic of AI. So Yeah. And the same thing with it's not this, it's that. It has become a verbal tick of AI because it's such a core way that we describe things, but you still have to get rid of them. But it's possible it's just so deeply baked in human communication that it's going to be tough to get rid of. I don't know, but I'll do better. Certainly try.
Question Things says, been watching since 2016. I'm a former English teacher and Army CA/PSYOP specialist. Having produced propaganda for the feds, I've seen how this works behind the scenes. I've been writing critical thinking books.
Damn, that's interesting.
There was another one for 20 years.
Oh, it's continued. So,
Yes.
Sorry. For 20 years, not going to plug them here, but I've dialed into 10 easy ways to keep an open mind and think critically. Can I share them with your team? I think the audience would benefit greatly.
Drop them into Discord for sure. Absolutely. That's very interesting that he's been on the opposite side writing the actual propaganda. Very, very fascinating.
Next up comes from the Navigator 925, who didn't leave a message, but they donated $20.
Thank you, the Navigator. Appreciate
That's
it.
very generous. Thank you so much.
Now back to Marussia Dark. Have you been tracking the Lego theft scandal?
Yes.
Company stole an old man's $200K collection that sent the cops to arrest and SWAT the guy, investigating it multiple times despite him doing everything legally.
This is wild. I've been waiting for the final video to drop and then see if there's enough there, but it is insane. If you guys haven't watched the videos on this, check them out. The guy's name is Reckless something.
Yeah,
Reckless
he's
Ben.
a YouTuber,
Reckless
right?
Ben.
Yeah.
So Reckless Ben, he's like, it's the old school thing they used to do on TV would be like Bobby fights, and you would write into Bobby and Bobby would go figure out why these small claims people did bad thing to you. Like this, steal your Lego collection. But this guy goes hard in the paint trying to get this guy's either money for his Lego collection or the actual Lego collection back. It is crazy what ends up happening to him. So I'll be very curious to see in the final analysis how all of this plays out, if he's selectively editing things to make himself look good, or if it really is as bad as it looks. And it looks horrible. It looks like cops colluding with the business. If I'm really honest, what it looks like allegedly, no idea. But the way that it's painted is that Bricks and Minifigs, I think is the name of the company.
They had those in my neighborhood too.
That they're based out of Utah, I believe, and that they are deep in with the Mormon church, that the cops are in with the Mormon church, and that basically the Mormon church is working with Bricks and Minifigs to steal this guy's Lego collection. And there are plenty of things that get caught on camera that are pretty damning. Now, I don't even know all the depths of it, so let me be very clear that this is not my stance. I'm merely relaying what they're talking about. But it is wild. And so if any portion of that story can be believed, it is damning for Bricks and Minifigs. So we'll see, man. But that is crazy. And this whole like anti-civilian journalism thing is gross.
Did you know the part? I don't know if you mentioned it because I was going through chat. He wore a wig and stood outside of the guy's house at one point.
That's
like that's how deep the stalking went for this. Which, like, who knows the whole story?
In terms of Reckless Ben,
I believe so, because I just heard this yesterday, so I don't know.
So your take is Reckless Ben is being reckless.
No, mine is just, I don't really know who, because we don't have the full story, so I haven't really taken any side. But I'm leaning more towards the YouTuber, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, the bad news is what I've seen is from the YouTuber, but the things he has captured on camera from the corporate office and the cops is pretty horrible.
Yeah.
So it's like, even if will I be surprised if in the end this walks a little too close to the line of, what do they call this? Like nuisance YouTubing or whatever, where they're such a pain in the ass to get attention. I wouldn't be surprised if there's some element of that in all of this. But even with that, the outcome of what happened is grotesque. The company should 1,000% do the right thing. And the cops have got to explain some of the stuff that they said. Also, the redactions that they made from the body cam footage is wild. So yeah, this is not a good look for the cops or for the company. Yeah. So now, in the end, may it also be a bad look for the YouTuber, possibly.
Next up is Big Digglers with a two-parter in one question. Number one, consider based buzz earlier super chat. I note 14 as of this super chat likes. By impacts metrics, this must be one of the highest liked one yet. So I think he's just commenting on someone's super chat.
By the amount of super chats we've got based on.
The amount of super chats. Right.
And then number two.
But what's crazy is so far none of the super chats have been about the thing.
Oh, they're coming. Two, do you sense cognitive dissonance from Drew, Ryan, and chat? I sense it here myself.
Is he asking chat or me?
I don't know, because that's just what the question's framed at, but I'm assuming you, since it's the super chat.
Do I sense cognitive dissonance? No, I don't. So here, I don't think people give enough credit to frame of reference. People have a frame of reference, myself included. Everything gets filtered through that frame of reference. Frame of reference is about two things. It's about what you look at, so what gets your attention, and then what you see, how you interpret the thing that got your attention. And I've spent enough time now with Drew for sure to know Drew is sincere. You may disagree with him, but he's sincere. He's not trying to manipulate anybody. He's very consistent, and that you guys also have to filter him a bit through the lens of he's always also trying to be a good producer. And so you're not always necessarily getting the fullness of his ideas. So I don't sense cognitive dissonance in Drew. I sense a frame of reference that is very different than mine. And so we will often do what we did here, which I think was we're having slightly different conversations. There's enough overlap to keep it interesting, but that if we weren't afraid of bad TV, there's probably more conversation to be had just about having the exact same conversation, lay out our thesis, lay out our base assumptions. Like if we went through that whole exercise, we'd probably be able to finally have like a very narrow conversation about one part of the topic. But yeah, anyway, not cognitive dissonance, just frame of reference.
Free Markets 17. Oh, no, Big Digglers. Big Digglers, Tom, think where Drew and chat, or at least myself, are not syncing is Drew does not seem to be grasping the big picture by myopically focusing on minutia. It's akin to, besides from that, Mrs. Lincoln, how was the play?
Again, I'm going to say that my read of the situation is that Drew's frame of reference is different enough that the elements of this that trigger a contact point for him in terms of, oh, that thing, I disagree with that and I disagree with it for these reasons, is very different than the places where I make contact with the argument and go, ooh, I disagree with that, or this is a thing I think people are missing.
I feel like this is like a parent-teacher conference, and like the teacher and the parent are talking in front of me of like, how does Drew do in class? Like, now, ask me, Big Digglers, what are you trying to say? What do you say? This thing, say the thing.
If you have anything, obviously, that you
it was just funny that he was like, I think what Drew was missing is what am I missing? Say it plainly in one sentence.
Yeah, also a very good request. So yeah, that's my take on it.
I also missed the based buzz, so I'm going to jump back to that. This is the one the other person was referencing with the 14 likes. Henry died by immigrants moved in by the government. Police failed on every front and lied. This is exactly what white people have been screaming about. No one did anything, and now Henry is dead. This is worse than Floyd.
Okay, so that's frame of reference at work. The immigrant part of the argument I think is very important. Now, I believe Digwa is, he was born in the UK, if I'm not mistaken. So one, keep that in mind. So the immigrant debate is going to be the most important debate of the next 10 years. Is exactly why I went and engaged with Tommy Robinson. Interviews coming out on Thursday, tomorrow. So I do think this is incredibly important. I think people are not being honest with themselves about the power of values. People kill each other over basically money and values. And so once you understand that people will murder other people over their values, then bringing people into your country that do not share your values is a dangerous game. Historically, it's been about bring people in, you start hitting a rough patch, you hit the pause button, you acculturate those people before you start bringing more people in. And if they fail to assimilate, then you don't just keep bringing people in. And we're suddenly, because for me, frame of reference, everything is economic. If you don't believe me, look at the fact that both Labour and conservative governments in the UK just imported an unimaginable amount of people. And the conservative government, who's our equivalent of the right, you would have thought would stop people from coming in, but they didn't. In fact, I think they increased the number of people coming in. So the same is true now in Japan. So the right got very excited when the current prime minister of Japan got elected, because she was like, fuck all y'all motherfuckers. If you're not from Japan, you can get the fuck out. And now all of a sudden she's only reduced it by 2%, which means that 98% of the volume of immigrants are still coming in. Over the next year, I think they're estimating 800,000 more foreigners coming into Japan. So you have to ask why. So if they have an ideological reason to not do it, if they have a sort of cause and effect reason to not do it, what is a cause and effect reason that overwhelms both of those to do it? And of course, it's economic. So when you are just absolutely hemorrhaging people because your birth rate is so low and you've got an economy to keep up, one of the easiest ways to disguise that your economy is not in a good place is to make things cheaper. One of the ways to make things cheaper is through increased efficiencies. But if you don't choose that path, the other one is lower wages. And the easiest way to get lower wages is to bring in foreign workers for whom the money that they make at the low end is better than what they'd be doing in their home country. And that's what we're seeing all over the place. And this is why conservative governments are still all about the importation of foreign labor. So that's like, we're going to have that conversation. So now, was he killed by a foreigner? If he was born in England, as I think he was, no, he was not killed by a foreigner. He was killed by a Brit. And if you mean he was killed by somebody of foreign descent, yes, but it's like, this is where you've got to be a lot more thoughtful about these arguments. The question becomes when somebody's, I can never remember if they're considered first or second generation, but when you're born in the country and you're the first person in your family born in the country, the question is, why are they not becoming a part of the British culture? And that is a much bigger question that gets very wacky real fast. So yes, immigration is a problem. It's not a problem because you're bringing people in from outside your country. It's a problem because they're not adopting. They didn't come because they cherish the values of that country. This is why I say I love me a foreign-born American. My wife is a foreign-born American, but she has American values. If you don't share the values of the country, why on fucking God's green earth you would go to that country is beyond me. I mean, I get it. The economics are the answer, but that is a disaster waiting to happen.
Okay, let's move on, everybody, because Bernie Sanders wants half of OpenAI. He saw them IPO projections, and he was like, yeah, I need that. He was like, forget this billionaire tax. I need that trillionaire tax.
Yeah.
Owning the means of production. Bernie Sanders pushes for 50% public ownership of American AI companies, proposes AI sovereign wealth fund that would hold direct ownership stakes in largest AI firms. I'm going to say one thing, then I'll throw it to you. We all were promised the AI age of abundance.
Yeah.
Who's going to pay for this abundance that we think that we're going to have? It's end up going to be the tax of the wealthy anyway, just like the existing tax policy. If we play this out 10, 5, whatever many years in the future, OpenAI is going to be paying a hefty bill anyway. Why not just cut the middleman and just take it? Like, start here. I don't know. I'm being cheeky in that, but I'm like...
I'm so curious. Are you saying you really believe that?
No, I don't think we should have there shouldn't be like public-private ownership in this way. But I'm like, if AI is going to be this age of abundance, that's going to AI-based socialism that we keep getting promised.
Let's just go right to it.
Let's just go right to it.
All right. Well, Drew and Bernie, like any good communist would, want to seize the means of production.
Sheesh.
Bernie has put together a new bill, and it would seize 50% of the top AI companies and give them to the public. His reasoning, of course, from where I'm sitting, is completely lunatic. It's lunatic. This guy is a menace. I cannot decide if he is well-meaning and just fucking retarded, or if he actually believes this shit and is therefore sinister. He is saying that human knowledge is somehow something that now we all have to pay for. What? and that we can just take from the builders in society and give to the people that are beneficiaries of the things that are being built that have not created anything themselves. Now, here's the reality about human knowledge. Thank God, none of us have to ask for permission to access human knowledge. The reason that we are not perpetually locked in the dark ages is that we are all literally evolved to drink knowledge from culture. This is why when kids are around 11, they start pushing away from their parents and they start drinking from the larger culture. This is why we all say we're all products of our time, because we're going to imbibe everything that's going on around us. What do people know? So that we can stand on the shoulders of giants instead of having to reinvent ourselves every fucking generation. The absurdity of that is so extreme. For people to think that they own human knowledge is crazy. Have you guys not heard, as the internet has made abundantly clear, the information wants to be free. We're in a better world when information is free. The dark ages were in part due to the destruction of books and knowledge in general that actually set society back in a measurable way. When you deny people access to that knowledge, you are denying culture its ability to propel us all forward into the future. So the fact that AI was built by creating pattern recognition out of human knowledge so that we can all use it far more efficiently should be celebrated, but it's not being celebrated. It's trying to be seized by somebody who has never built a fucking thing in his life. This guy can't even get legislation passed. He does not understand how hard it is to build something. The miracle is wealth. Redistributing wealth is not a miracle. How can somebody show such a rabid desire to go out and take the things that have been created, but never ask, what does it take to create something in the first place? It is absolutely obscene. It is obscene that somebody would want to sit on top of this incredible culture that we've created that allows us to innovate, to make it such that a king 150 years ago wouldn't even have access to the basic drugs that somebody can get at a CVS, that dentists didn't even used to use Novocaine. All of these things are invented based on people having an incentive to create something, an acknowledgement that not everybody is willing or able to take all the risk to do all of that creation. And instead, we get this parasitic class, the political class, that don't create, they only take, they only redistribute. And what they should be doing is being grateful. Like, imagine if you're a parent and you have worked your ass off to have your kids, to raise them, and your kids have a legitimate complaint. I did not ask to be born. But if they're being loved and they're being fed and they're being educated and they're being given this incredible opportunity, if that kid starts stealing from their parents, running off, trying to boss the parents around, tell them how to run things, it is wild. That kid does not know how to do what the parent is doing. So that is the exact case when politicians are trying to take from people who actually know how to do this incredibly difficult, high-risk endeavor, which is to create a self-sustaining economic engine. It is so fucking difficult. 94% of all companies fail. 94%. And the government wants to come in and say, of the remaining 6%, we're just going to snatch all this shit because that's so easy. They should be asking, why do only 6% of companies succeed? That's fucking brutal. Those odds are gnarly. So how do we as a government help facilitate that? One of the ways you help facilitate that is you make sure that everybody has equal access to the knowledge that is out there, that people can leverage it and use it. It is wild to me that we're now trying to put caps on people's ability to go, ooh, I see a cool way to leverage everything that we know as a society and make something. Now, if people want to say, you may not use my copyrighted material in your training, fine. I love the idea of letting people opt out of being included in the training data. That's great. But the reality is, if you just put your shit out on the internet for anybody to encounter, then why all of a sudden can we not put it in the form of AI for humans to encounter? Remember, while I get right now people are super paranoid that AI is going to take over the world, it hasn't. AI has just become a way for humans to engage with the patterns that we see in the cumulative human output of all of society up to this point done in a far more efficient pattern. And by the way, AI will cease to exist if people don't find enough value in it that they're willing to pay for it. And so what we're saying by paying for AI is, hey, you've made use of this thing in a way where I would rather give you my money and get the product than keep my money. So they are saying that they value the AI more than they value their money. That's how capitalism does its miracle. Now, I get it. We don't have a capitalist society. And so the weird hybrid, bizarro world that we live in that people call capitalism, that is completely abusive. And so I understand why people are frustrated. But the element of capitalism that still lives, where we allow people to be selfish so that they're incentivized to create something where people say, yeah, I would rather have that thing than my money, that moves society forward, that whole confusion is creating this derangement. And so we've really got to find a way to talk people like Bernie Sanders off of a ledge, to get them interested in the power of being able to create something like that, to get them to see that that human knowledge is like oxygen. We should all have access to it. So think of open source AI. That is literally every human being for free being able to take advantage of these patterns that are present. And so trying to take from the people that are taking huge amounts of risks with their time, with their capital, is lunacy. It's how you break the machine of prosperity.
This is not going away, because I feel like the 50% thing is like doubling down. Like, it was bad enough when there was the wealth tax. It was bad enough when they, like some of the Mamdani proposals. But I feel like Bernie's like, yeah, and we want half the company. Like, that's wild.
That's wild.
Like, that's kind of wild. Like, 6% of IBM, Trump is actually doing socialist things and getting it done. Bernie can't even do it right. Like, 50%, dude, like, come on, man. Start with at least 10% and negotiate up. Come on.
That is crazy. I need a button where I can acknowledge your sarcasm so people don't think that I miss it. So what Trump is doing is lunacy. What Bernie is doing is lunacy times 10. They should both stop immediately.
By like 9.5, 6% times 10 would be a little bit more than what Bernie asked for, but I get you.
It's crazy.
I have a hypothetical for you all on this, actually. It's kind of a callback to a previous conversation from the London show. So the data centers that they're building, in a world where we as citizens continue having to carry the burden of these data centers, do you think then there becomes an argument for ownership of these companies?
I need you to tell me what burden of the data centers you think you're carrying.
Well, so not me specifically, but like the areas that are facing the water shortages, increases in electricity costs, like all that stuff. Because while it's not major now, it's going to continue growing. And so I guess my wonder is there a way we could reformat what Bernie's saying to work in a more fair sense? If we're not going to regulate companies.
Your frame of reference is so delusional, I don't even know where to begin. You've grown up in an era where the absurd tax rates that we're paying now are just like, yeah, more. You're not talking about, okay, what about when am I going to get recompense for all of the fraud? Do you know how many millions of dollars I've paid in tax? And it has just been pissed the fuck away.
Well, I still think we need that. I guess it's more the question of...
Here's the thing. I don't want compensation for that. I want us all to stop being fucking idiots and understand government is not your friend. Government has an impulse to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and it will happily make victims of us all to make sure that it can be the nanny to everybody else. And we need to understand that humans are selfish. So if you have a beef with that, you have a beef with God, take it up with him. Stop taking it up with the fucking government. Stop trying to make it policy. Humans are selfish, but you can turn that, much like we can turn wind or water into a source of power. You can turn people's selfishness into a source of power. The way that you do that is by saying, hey, we're going to create an environment in which you're able to build a company, and let's call it an LLC. So you have limited liability. So if you fail, all good, because we recognize that the thing that you'll create, the only way it will sustain is if you make something that people want more than they want their money. And we're going to let you keep the money that you make by making this thing that people value more than they value their money. Okay. That is a fucking miracle. That is so hard to do. Dude, so Drew said something earlier that's very profound, that when people can't hear, they need to feel. If somebody had to like run a business for 5 years and they only ate or had a house, if they can fucking make that company work real fast, people are going to get real clear-headed about how hard it is, about the government fucks you up at every turn, that keeping employees inspired, motivated, compensated is very hard, that you're always going to pay, if you're not a fucking dumbass, you're always going to pay your employees before you pay yourself. All of it. But when that machine is successful for such a long period of time, people actually forget that is fucking difficult. And they just think, oh, cities just pop up and countries just run themselves. And like, oh, these poor assholes that are in countries that aren't functional. Well, I don't know what broke with them. What broke with them is fucking capitalism. They made dumb ass choices that strip people of their incentive, or just are so corrupt and so parasitic from the top down that they can't get any momentum going whatsoever because companies can't even fucking form. So it is absolutely maddening to realize that people do not understand. They cannot map the cause and effect of how tax dollars come into existence, full stop. They don't even understand. And so it's just more, because they have passed a value judgment on selfishness and said, ew, selfishness is icky. These guys are getting rich. Take their fucking money. And then they don't realize you wake the fuck up in Soviet Russia or Cuba or Venezuela or Argentina for the last 100 years before they got their shit together. And it fucking sucks.
So you're more team, make sure the companies are just paying it rather than it coming off. Well, I guess not team, but you see.
I'm more team cause and effect. And there are things that will make your society prosperous. And there's a sane amount of money to collect and tax. And at the same time, you have to walk a balance between the following two things. You need to, via policy, show gratitude to businesses. This is why every dumb-ass mayor, like the mayor of fucking Seattle, my hometown, ends up going, yeah, the stupid shit that I was saying that was anti-business, that was fucking dumb. Because I now have a budget hole, because people do fucking leave, because people are not going to get slapped around by their government forever. Like you can think that they will, but if California is not learning the lesson, if New York's not learning the lesson, if Seattle's not learning the lesson, then they're fucking idiots and their states will decline. You've got to show gratitude for people that can build that fucking engine through policy. I'm not asking you to like smile and take them out to dinner and say thank you. I'm just saying, make policy that doesn't fucking punish them endlessly, and recognizing corporations will abuse you if you let them. And so you've got to have both of those ideas in your head. Boy, oh boy, we need people that can build shit. Boy, oh boy, these motherfuckers will abuse us if we let them. And you've got to exist in that tension. And if you can't, you fucking hurt your own people. Period. You're not hurting some mythical creature. You're hurting your people, because eventually the government runs out of other people's money. And now you live in a literal shithole.
I think this is a perspective question, because I seen this Warren Buffett clip that I want to play. And I feel like this could help ground us a lot, because I think there's oftentimes we think we deserve more, or there should be more. And to your point, Tom, of the endless like line of, if we just had more money, if we just had more of this, if we just had, and we don't realize how much we actually have in the actual present. But let's talk about it. Warren Buffett.
Bottom 2% in terms of income in the United States, the bottom 5%, and for sure the top 1%, all live better than John D. Rockefeller was living when I was 6 years old. John D. Rockefeller was the richest man in the world. And today, you can get better medicine, better education, better entertainment, better transportation. you can do everything better than he could. You can, I mean, it's astounding. That's in my lifetime.
All right, pause. So here, he is both right and wildly misleading. And so if you, it might even be like, if you click on that, I think you'll find it in the comments. Just look at a picture of his house. And so he said, if it didn't, it was very quiet on our side. I don't know if it was for you guys. He said the bottom 1%, 2%, and certainly the top 5% or whatever he said, bottom 5%, maybe top 1%, certainly live better. So meaning the poor people right now are living better than John D. Rockefeller did. Now, that wouldn't be recognized in real life for a whole host of reasons. And it ought to be recognized in real life for a host of reasons, but it won't be, because just as I want people to acknowledge that humans are selfish, and if you've got a beef with that, take it up with God, humans just cannot deal with inequality. And if you've got a beef with that, take it up with God. So if you show, I don't know if we can pull it up, but if you show John D. Rockefeller's perfect, his house, now go ahead and tell somebody, hey, you can live there. You can have servants. People are going to treat you like a king with like just extreme deferential treatment. However, if you need a root canal, that shit gonna suck. And if you get a cut in your finger, it might be terminal because no antibiotics for you. They're going to be people like, yeah, fuck it. I'm going to do it. I might only get 10 or 15 years, but that's going to be fucking rad. And so him not being honest about that, I think does the whole point a disservice. So in some ways that are excruciatingly meaningful, our lives are way better, no matter how poor you are, than they would have been 100 years ago or certainly 200 years ago. Way better. But on other metrics, you're going to be driven absolutely crazy because we are living in the second Gilded Age where the Elon Musks, the Jeff Bezoses of the world and all of that, they're so wealthy that it's just infuriating for people that don't believe that they can get out from under the debt that their government has put them in, or they can't figure out why they can't make ends meet because their government hates them and is stealing their money, all while saying, I'm going to give you free shit. Which, by the way, every time you hear you're going to give me free shit, just remember the second half of that statement is, I'm going to give you free shit by stealing your money. As long as you don't forget that part. So to actually get people to respond the way that he wants them to respond, which is to understand capitalism is dope because it takes the selfish impulse of people that want to get ahead and it funnels them through okay, you can get ahead, but you have to innovate. You can't be violent. You can't steal. You can't defraud, but you can make something people want. We'll let you do that. And people don't realize that is a structure that government's created, which is why I'm not a libertarian. It is a structure the government has created that is fucking awesome, but governments have an impulse to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And it is the job of a well-armed public to remind them their job should be to stay as small as humanly possible. And somewhere along the line, because we've been prosperous for so long, and because we do not teach people how the economy works, and because we indoctrinate people with this mentality that they are a victim, we just have completely lost the plot on how we actually got the society that we got. And we got it by going, hey, selfish people, I'm going to funnel you through this filter of if you create something that adds value, I'm going to let you get ridiculously wealthy. And if you don't think that's true, ask China how they got out from under starving their people to death. They finally said, all right, goddamn, we're going to let these selfish people, we're going to funnel them through a thing that says you have to add value, but we're going to let you get ridiculously wealthy by doing it. And through banking regulations and stuff like that, they were able to, actually banking deregulations, they were able to create the modern miracle of pulling hundreds of millions of people out of poverty. But we don't tell that story.
You said something about Tokyo. I was trying to bring up the book. I'm blanking on the name though. Where
The one I'm reading?
Yeah.
Tokyo Junkie.
Tokyo Junkie. The way that they were able to convert the culture from rioters, prostitution, stuff to like a shared, we're on the same page. Is there a mechanism that they did, or did you not get to like is that?
Drew, this is really becoming a thing for me, and I may punish you in making the deep dives less about what I know will perform and more about what I'm just like fucking obsessed with.
Yeah.
It's not good for the channel.
Your obsessions are always great for the channel.
Are
you
they
bring passion.
true?
We love your passion.
You're
It's very
passionate about
sweet.
it, yeah.
It's, in fact, thank you. That's very kind because that's against your financial incentive. So here's what I haven't looked deeply enough to know what the final punchline is going to be, but I will say this, that it is going to make everyone deeply uncomfortable what actually happens. And this is the thing that makes me very sad about revisiting Winston Churchill. If you really look closely, if in the fullness of time we actually understand all the horrific amoral things that he did, evil things that he did to win the war, we're going to go, oh, he was an evil man. And the reality is that after World War II, to create the incredible country of Japan and to stabilize the world, we realized, China's on the rise. They're partnering with Russia. Now the new threat is communism. Japan could fall to communism if we let it, because we were really pushing for them to be a left-leaning country. And then we saw, the left is very aligned with communism. We're going to need to push these guys in the opposite direction. One of the many, 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 many things that they did was go to the Yakuza and say, we need you on our side. And so the Yakuza is their mafia. And so they enlisted the help of people to like, oh, you need that union busted? No problem. I pay a couple visits to the right households and all of a sudden that union's not so interested in organizing anymore. So now I'm not saying I know that's what they did. I know that they engaged with the Yakuza. Did the Yakuza break up unions? Probably. But do I have evidence of that? Not yet. But it's going to be things like that. You don't get in bed with the Yakuza because you want friendly things.
You want sound domestic policy.
Correct. So that is how real change happens.
Yeah.
And society, and this is part of what scares me about the information age, society is the layer of lies that we tell ourselves about what those things mean. And so while I am bordering on a free speech absolutist, so people need to say whatever they believe to be true about Winston Churchill, but man, do I hope in the final analysis we go, you know what? We're going to selectively focus on the good things.
Gotcha.
And same thing about Lincoln. It's like when you really look at how the end of slavery came about, it was not pure. But it's like, I'd rather tell the pure story. I think it's way more inspiring and motivational and makes me want to do better things, moral things. And looking at the like really icky reality of it all, I hate that the world is like that.
Same for the civil rights movement. We all have the cover story and the real story.
Yeah.
We got to move over to Russia and Ukraine because that story is another one that's just kind of unraveling in the
this is
time,
so you had Putin claiming, hey, war is almost over, guys. Great news. And then all of a sudden he is really realizing that, I can be touched by the Ukraine basically at any moment. And so it does appear that the Ukraine is out innovating them when it comes to drone technology. So they are now reaching farther and farther into Russia with these drone strikes and hitting critical infrastructure. So they're calling it sanctions that they're putting on Russian oil by blowing up tankers, refineries. And they were just about to have an economic forum. And there's a bunch of people from around the world, including US delegates, and they fucking bombed it right before it could start. Now, I don't know if they did it before everyone arrived, after everyone, I don't know. But they bombed the forum. So this is getting worse in that it's escalating, because I don't know what a cornered Russia looks like. If they're losing the drone war but winning the ballistic missile war, then it's like, do they just start leveling Kyiv? I don't know. We're going to see. But this is far from over. And while I haven't interrogated this as closely as I have the US and Iran, my immediate sympathies go with Ukraine. So I am admittedly this is kind of dope that these guys are building the drone technology. Now, I probably have a lie in my head about what's actually happening. I want to imagine the Ukrainian leadership is just rallying their troops, getting their engineers excited that they're having like their
War-based
Manhattan moment.
innovation,
Yes.
Our World War II moment equivalent. Yeah.
Exactly.
I'm gonna say-
So now, is that really what's happening, or is Europe just having a proxy war with Russia? But this clearly is far from over, and we'll see how this plays out. But yeah, we live in a destabilized world. I'm very unnerved by what's happening as this could escalate quickly. Russia may start running Iran's playbook of retaliating against allies of Ukraine instead of just Ukraine, so starting to strike Europe. That would be bad. And so when the drones went off course in Romania, it was my understanding that those drones were actually Ukrainian. I don't know that for sure, but driven off course somehow by Russia. But people were saying that, hey, this is basically the next vector of attack, that Russia is going to start doing things that will force a Article 5 like moment where NATO has to decide, are we actively going to engage in Russia? Because Article 5, based on this is just a thought experiment, but Article 5 just got triggered by this thing that happened in whatever, Romania, Latvia, I guess, is the one that people are really pointing at. So we'll see.
To your point, though, Ukraine is holding it down. Like everybody thought they would get ran over, big brother, little brother type thing. This will be over in 2 weeks. Trump even said it when they had their beef in the White House. Without us, you guys will be wrapped up.
Yeah.
They've been holding it down. So
very impressive.
Shout out to the Ukrainian people for doing their thing. Okay, there's been some like hilarious gaming news that I feel like we should just kind of cover briefly. I think this all pulls on the same thread in a different way. Because first we had the conversation about Henry Nowak, the start of it. We had the secondary conversation about like immigration, the changing demographics, the feeling like invisible in certain things. And then now in the gaming community, they're one of the long-standing franchises, God of War. Guys, they're on God of War 14. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I get it. Don't woke it, but you can only have Kratos come back from the dead and kill a god so many times. Ryan is bouncing up in the seat to put his head up.
Well, I'll just keep it quick, but I also feel like this character it's following is so important to the lore of the Sony Kratos that it just makes sense.
Yeah.
So good choice on the character.
Oh, 100%. Like, I will say it is disappointing as a fan that I'm not going to get to play as Kratos much, but it's like the Miles Morales game. Same gameplay, just a different story with a different character. Yeah. And, I mean, I guess it's different because he is Spider-Man, but to me, I'm like, this is filling out Kratos' character more and filling out his love interest more. Because that's his wife. But
now, there's definitely big beef about it being a woman. There's no doubt about that. Yeah. I think that this would probably have played very differently if the character was hot. So here's the thing. Here's what I can't understand. And life is going to teach Sony a lesson, or it's going to teach me a lesson. So as a player, I would not play this game because the lead character is female. When I play a game, I like to imagine myself as that character. You're never going to see me in a Fortnite skin that's female ever. It just makes me feel weird. I don't like it, but to each their own.
There was a Twitter like, I'll let you finish, Gaga.
I think I know what you're talking about.
It'd be interesting to hear. So on that, for me, it's like I'm not of that generation or whatever, but I see guys play female characters all the time. But the one thing that they have in common is that they have a great ass. If it's a third player character, you're just staring at the woman's ass all day. Now, if I were 14, 24, maybe that would hold more allure. So at least I understand that. But Sony has clearly an agenda. Like, I'm going to steal, man, the argument for, so if you're looking at your screen, they're showing the actress. It's the woman from, God, what was that vampire show on HBO a while ago? True Blood. Thank you. That's what I know her from. So she was in True Blood. Beautiful young woman. Very much, I think, respected in like the D&D crowd. So like she's got real street cred in terms of who you would cast. But when I say that she's stunning, she is stunning. Now, she's playing the character. They've made her hair red. They've made it similar length. Like they've given her similar features to the character, but she is way less attractive. Now, if I am Sony, I'm going to steel man this argument. I'm going to say, and part of the kerfuffle around this is the game director is a woman, which from my perspective, like if I were going to invest in a game and you told me that you had a woman running a franchise called God of War, I'd be like, hard pass. I want Jason Momoa or somebody who looks like Jason Momoa in that fucking role. Like, I want somebody who lives and breathes like fucking heavy metal, like swelling orchestra, like fucking kills something, because that, at least I've never played God of War, but I'm guessing based on the title and what clips I've seen that that's where we're at. Okay. So anyway, you've got a woman doing it. Don't trust that she'll have the instincts that guys who will be the primary buyer of this product, because I'm just talking as a capitalist, I don't trust that she'll read their instincts well. Okay, so, but if I'm going to steel man the fact that she's looking at that and she's saying, listen, it really does matter how you represent women. There's this YouTuber guy, Tom Bilyeu, bangs on all the time about frame of reference. So we have an opportunity to shift people's frame of reference to something that is more grounded. So rather than everybody living in this like constant pornified version of women, like, let's show that like a woman really can be strong. She can be gritty. And look, there was pushback on Linda Hamilton when Terminator 2 came out, and was she too masculine and all that stuff. She ended up being a dope ass heroine, remembered well over time. Same with Sigourney Weaver, right? So let's like really ground her. Let's let her be strong and covered in dirt and not wearing a bunch of fucking makeup. And like, you know, this is a gritty woman who's fighting, if this is Kratos' love interest, like fighting for him and what they stand for and all of that. And so we just like a real woman who's not in a glamour fucking photo is not always going to look incredible. Like, let's really show it. Let's show a non-glamorized version of this. Heard. Got it. I bet my wife will fucking love that shit. But the reality is, if this is a male power fantasy, you are dealing with brain chemistry. Now, the great irony is, if you look at the novels that are the female equivalent of porn, they're called romantasy. It's a huge genre that sells untold millions of copies, just absolute insanity. And I think the biggest one's called Fourth Wing or something like that.
Yeah, it's Fourth Wing. There's also Court of Thorn and Roses, and there's another one that's big.
All right. Now,
Iron something. Yeah, Iron Flame.
In these books, the guys be as hot as the day is long. And the book covers and stuff, hot. Even one of the people that wrote God of War posts on Instagram the most like hot girl photos ever. And all of that makes sense to me because we as human animals find that stuff attractive. And so if you're a beautiful woman, I will forgive you for posting thirst traps on Instagram because you know the neurochemical effect that it has on people. It's a big deal. So all of that, I think, makes all the sense in the world. So when I look at Sony doing this, I'm just like, bro, what are you doing? There's a reason that women want the glamour shots. There's a reason that guys want to play an attractive woman because they want to see that physique. They want that neurological feedback of like, ooh, that's sexy. And when you take that away, it is a fundamental misunderstanding of what your consumer wants. And that's why so many of these games fail and they get so much backlash. It's just like, just accept that the job of a video game is not to speak to an audience that isn't buying your product. The job of a video game is to speak well to the audience that is going to buy your product. And so if you've got to bring them in with a great ass to then tell them a story of a fully realized woman, awesome. Do that.
I just don't think God of War... I agree with you. Let's start with that. Like, I do agree with the mentality you're saying. I don't think God of War necessarily falls into that bracket, personally.
Meaning, attractive woman, not going to work.
I
Got to be ugly.
They're using it to sell more. Maybe I misunderstood because I am jumping between.
So they're not using the main character to sell the game.
No, I think what they're using to sell the game is the God of War tag itself. Like, we are emphasizing this is God of War. Even in the trailer, they're showing Kratos come into this because it takes place in, I guess, the equivalent of Valhalla for Nordic.
Let me ask real fast calibrating question. Do you believe, you're like, yes, right choice, this game is going to hit millions of sales?
Yes, because it's God of War. Because look at The Last of Us Part 2. Last of Us Part 2, led by a lesbian woman. People complained about it, still sold more than the original, still won all the Game Awards, and it is a remarkable game. Whether or not people actually like it, most people agree it is well made.
So
I think God of War is
doesn't matter as long as the game is good.
Right.
But is it neutral, advantageous, or disadvantageous?
I don't think it should matter. I think it's nothing. Because like I look at my friend who...
You're answering an ought question. I'm asking a sales figure question.
I think it is neutral, and I think it is not going to sell less because it's a woman. I think it will sell less because it's not Kratos. But it will still make bank, if that makes sense.
So even if they'd introduced a new guy, you're like, that doesn't matter. It wouldn't have worked there.
No matter who you do. If they had followed, because there's a DLC they're working on following Atreus, which is the son of Kratos. I don't think that DLC is going to sell as well as the base game because no one came to God of War Ragnarok for Atreus. Now, the true fans of the universe and the franchise want to like learn about these characters, which is where these things come into play. But I don't think... I think it's just the matter of the lore, honestly, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and somebody even said like God of War is different type of game. So I feel like if you love that game, you would already be locked in. You're not doing it for the chicks. But if it's a newer franchise, if it's something a bit more experimental, if it's a reboot, if it's something like that, it's important, I think, to have a lead character that pulls them in. But this is similar to the Yakuza thing about Assassin's Creed, where when there was a black samurai, everybody was like, oh, well, why is it a black thing? They wokeified it. It was bad. The game itself was okay. Like, it wasn't a great game, but people are like, it's because he's black. That's why the game sucked. It was like, nah, it was just the 18th Assassin's Creed that was just like the last 17 Assassin's Creed where it's the same gameplay, same mechanism and all that. It's just a different person in the front. So I think with God of War, which is a button masher, it is the same game. If you're locked in and you love it, I think you'll already be okay with playing this again. But to your point of just marketing, I don't understand why you couldn't just make her look like how she looks in real life. I don't understand why you needed to age her up, uglify her, whatever the thing is. But like, I have this pulled up right now, whereas like I'm looking at other game characters. Cyberpunk 2027, Keanu Reeves look just like him. Like Idris Elba in the DLC, same thing. Like I'm seeing these other games where the character does look like them, but it does seem when it comes to women characters, they modify their facial features
one after another after another.
Yeah.
If you guys aren't looking at your phones, it's pretty wild.
Huh?
Like she's really old in the game.
Oh, so for over 100, she is pretty hot.
Kind of works. Yeah, she's like hundreds of years old. She is a giant. She's a frost giant specific. I know too much lore.
Now, okay. So this is, if I'm mapping you guys correctly, what I hear you saying is, hey, all that hype in the game industry that's been going on since Gamergate, it's all noise. It doesn't actually have anything to do with the struggling sales figures of the different games. That's a post hoc rationalization. It's actually just quality of game. That other stuff doesn't matter.
That's what I think. Mostly, I think maybe there's an argument on an indie level. It's a different story, but I look at my best friend who has nothing to do with politics, very middle of the road guy, and his exact comment was, it doesn't have Kratos, but I'm going to buy it. I like God of War. You know, and I think that's kind of what...
But there is manipulation to it. There is, if Asmongold goes on a rant about it, it is going to affect sales. If, you know what I mean? Like, so there is, you can avoid the controversy by just playing, by pitching a fastball down the middle. She's a woman, yes, but she's hot, cool. Now it's no longer a conversation. Nobody's even talking about it. But the fact that she's a mid, now it's a conversation. Now somebody's going to overanalyze it. Somebody's going to write a think piece about it, and that could impact sales numbers. So to me, it's a avoidable problem. So why even go down that road?
Let me see if I can make something hyper apparent to you guys and to the audience. And if when I say this, you're like, yeah, that is absurd. Impact Theory makes comics, lesser known part of it's sort of on hiatus now, but we've done actually quite a few comics. And the realization that we modeled after Japan. So Japan makes comics for specific niches. They even have different names for them. Mm-hmm. And the names typically have to do with whether they're male or female. So you've got shonen, which is for young boys. You've got seinen, which is for older men, not older men, but like in their 20s. You've got shoujo, which is for girls. I forget the different names for the women stuff, but like all the way up to like 60-year-olds. Mm-hmm. And they don't try to make something for 60-year-olds that they think that young kids are going to like. So it's all very separate. Mm-hmm. They don't make something for boys that they think girls are going to like. They just make a thing with their clear target audience in mind. Like, as I think you would agree, Chainsaw Man is made for young boys, which is why the whole motivation in the beginning of the show is the kid wants to touch a breast. That's it. Not something you're going to expect to have wide appeal to young girls. Okay. So I look at that and I go, yeah, makes sense. When we make something, let's make sure that we define the demographic for whom this comic is for. So this is for boys this age, this is for girls this age. Okay, now we make that decision, and Lisa and I are each heading up the different stories. Now, would you expect me, as self-evident, just to sell? Would you expect me to oversee the comics aimed at young girls and Lisa to oversee the comics aimed at young boys? Or for me to oversee the comics aimed at young boys and Lisa to oversee the comics aimed at young girls?
Definitely one that matches your demographic.
Correct.
Oversee how though?
Oversee as in hire the writers, pick the art style, approve storylines, on and on and on.
Gotcha.
Which one?
I mean, I'm of the opinion that like anyone can oversee anything, I guess.
Wow. Okay.
But, like,
That's
I also don't think that also comes with the caveat of I don't think like an old man should tell the story of a young woman who was raped or something. You know what I mean? Like that's a very specific example.
Why? Why is
Well,
that not okay?
To me, I'm like, you need other writers at that point. You should not be a solo person doing that. But that's like a whole different
Why?
caveat. Because I do think you need a team of writers for sensitive topics.
Why?
Because you need a lot of perspectives on them.
I think the whole point of art is to have a singular perspective. It can make people mad, but the point is to say something.
That's fair.
All right,
Now,
we
hold on.
I saw the time.
I'll
I was
go
like, I'm-
late on this.
we already are.
I want to get
We
to
also
a
have 7
conclusion.
super chats.
So, all right, we'll get to the 6 super chats.
But
I don't
I
think
guess
I
that's
have.
the argument. Can anybody write anything?
So I think anybody should be able to write anything they want. And so if a 6-year-old man wants to write the tale of a 12-year-old girl that's raped, of course, write it. And if you say something that rings true, then people are really going to resonate with it and it's going to do well. The place I'm coming from is you're a business. What is more likely to land? I'm not saying that a great artist, first of all, if you're an author, you're going to be writing all characters all over the place, and you should absolutely do that. And when people get weird about that, I'm always shocked. However, when people go, Stephen King can't write women for shit, I'm not shocked. That's like, yeah, cool, fine. Just like oftentimes women write men that feel more like women than they feel like men. It's like, yeah, cool. You've lived your whole life as a woman. Got it. Understood. So that doesn't trip me out. I don't think they should stay silent. Write whatever fucking story you want. Write about whoever you want. But if you want to maximize the dollars, if I'm writing a story that's aimed at girls, I'm going to find me a female to oversee that. And when I look at, so I wrote the original treatment for our story of Wish Academy. So that was all me. I spent ages on it, developed it out, and I was like, this is dope. And then I showed it to Lisa and the person that was working on it with her at the time, another woman, and they were both like, this is terrible. And I was like, what do you mean? What would you guys do differently? And when they did, it was all about emotion and all this shit. And I was like, what the fuck? How are we going to even externalize that? It's like, you made empathy a superpower. I was like, this is fucking weird. They oversee it, ends up being one of our best pieces of IP from just the people we show it to, how do they react? So I'm like, this is exactly why we divvy it up the way that we do. And they would never, in my opinion, be able to do the stuff aimed at boys in the way that I would, because they just don't have the impulses and the instincts and all that. So from a business perspective, fastball down the middle when you can. You want somebody who's just freakishly passionate about that topic. Now, maybe the woman that's running it really is freakishly passionate about male aggression, sword play, power fantasy, being coated in blood, killing your enemies. Yeah, it's possible. It just seems statistically unlikely. And so gamers and gaming influencers in the millennial vein are screaming into the void to be heard. This is not what we want. Now, maybe they're just the loud online voices and they don't represent what's really going on. But I would say that sales figures indicate otherwise. So we'll see. That one will play out in the fullness of time. All right, we've got 6 super chats.
Yes, I'll get through these quick. First up comes from Free Market 1776. I was wondering how close you map to objectivism. Other than on free will, you seem to be aligned. If I said we do have free will because it is a fundamental choice to think or to not think.
That just isn't true. So there's absolutely no data for anybody who believes in free will to cling on to. Now, I'll happily go point by point, which you guys are not watching my video on free will. That video is getting its ass handed to it. But I don't think that people like discussions. They don't like to hear that they don't have free will. So I am not familiar enough with the definition of objectivism to give you an answer to that. If that is cause and effect, then yes, I map to cause and effect.
RJ Johnson says, read No Free Will Deep Dive. I wrote a paper for a doctoral class that criticized Libet and also compatibilist theory. You should submit your DD to GPT 5.5 Pro, extended deep thinking, and ask it to criticize your points.
So I did that on Claude, and there was absolutely nothing compelling. So if you've got the argument that you want me to contend with, by all means put it forward, but I guarantee it will fall in the face of the following reality. We live in a universe governed by physics. Nothing, and I mean nothing, sits outside of the physics. So once you're locked in physics, everything is beholden to that. There is no point where something can come in and say, I'm not here for the physics. I'm going to sit outside and make a choice by free will. So then people will go, well, but then you have free don't. No, you don't. You don't have free don't in the exact same way that you don't have free will. First of all I have to do is damage your brain, and you're going to see it all differently. I only have to damage the emotional centers of your brain, and you will be completely unable to make any decision whatsoever. So at a minimum, you have to grant me that we are all slaves to our emotional centers. And if we're slaves to our emotional centers, what the fuck are we even talking about with free will? So anyway, people cling to like weird outlier shit, but you're never going to be able to get around that fact. You are glued to your biology, and your biology is glued to physics. There's never a time where some magical being sits outside of that making decisions. Sorry.
Sequoia Hall says, bringing up BLM in this conversation is the racist play. Dog whistle to the angry folks and emotion is crazy. Rage bait posting to organize racist arguments. The police action was wrong. That's it.
Just when I thought we were going to be on the other side of this.
Nope.
Just when I thought Drew was out. He gets pulled right back in.
Oh, we're going to have a couple more.
Yeah, so Drew, if you want to address it.
He was talking about KK bringing up Black Lives Matter in this conversation.
Oh,
Okay.
bringing up BLM in this conversation is a racist. So he's saying KK is
He's
making
saying
a racist play.
When
Oh, interesting.
All Lives Matter, when we were going through those two paragraphs in KK's tweet.
Yeah, Sequoia, I would say that you are saying that's what you would mean if you brought it up. But so for instance, I would say it's perfectly rational. So I can't speak for KK, but I can certainly speak for myself. And I think that the discrepancy in the government's reaction, forget the cops, the government's reaction, the unwillingness to also post kneeling photos, all of that shows you there is something else going on. And so what I think KK is trying to do is get people to talk about that other thing that is going on. Now, he may have a stronger take on it in terms of having reached a conclusion, whereas I just want people to have that debate. But there is something going on, and bringing up BLM is the perfect way to point people at that thing, at the discrepancy.
Patrick Wrightson, Drew introduced an excellent and crucial nuance, which I almost completely agree with, and Tom's commentary on what's occurring culturally relative to the bizarre mutated oppression-oppressor narrative in the West is dead on.
Preach. I'm not sure which nuanced part we're talking about, but many a nuanced point.
Patrick Wrightson, Patrick Wrightson again. Also, so the bad copying is the result of the prior cultural creep psychosis leading up to now, hence the bizarre behavior of the cops involved in the situation.
That's certainly my read.
The last unicorn standing, I personally was most upset not that this was a white man that was stabbed and couldn't breathe, but that a claimed racist attack was what had police arresting him to begin with. I think that's a big piece of the story. Really grateful to have Drew and Tom to break this down. Good job handling chat, Ryan. Tough topic today, and y'all faced it head on.
Nice. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. And I think you're right about the part of the claim of racism being the thing that made him immediately the person being put in handcuffs. Now, Drew did bring up another point, which I don't know the facts of him being in his yard well enough, but it could also have been that they understood that he was in this guy's yard and that he was saying basically, hey, this guy broke in my yard, racist attack. So there's enough information there that is not completely insane for the cops to go, oh, okay, this is the bad guy over here. And especially because I doubt very much he was able to articulate hardly anything at all other than I've been stabbed.
And to Novak's credit, he was stabbed, so he shouldn't have to like he couldn't have defended himself and try to hold on to his life.
And okay, are we ready for this? Is going to complicate things even more because the depth of the stab wound was so deep, the blood was pooling inside of his chest. So if somebody just told you they've been stabbed multiple times and you see that they're not bleeding, you're going to be like, huh? So facts are facts. And it's one of those where it is bad policing, because telling someone, you have to default assume that their claim is accurate. If they've told you, like, it's just like if you go to urgent care and you say shortness of breath, or I think I'm having a heart attack, they can't go, I don't believe you. They've got to take you right the fuck away. So same thing here. They should have acted differently, but there were a lot of things working against them making a clear-headed call.
Big Digglers, just to thank you, Super Chat. Good show today. Tough topics across the board. Appreciate the conversation from Tom, Drew, Ryan, and Chet.
Always a pleasure.
Thank
Big
you,
Digglers.
brother.
Thank you.
I'll Fight You Naked says this kid was trespassing because he was running away from the creature stabbing him. George Floyd did die of a fentanyl overdose. He had tripled the amount. Stop lying. Chauvin's knee was on his back. This is enraging.
Okay. So yeah, I'll just remind everybody.
I did that. That was not Tom. That was me.
Yeah. I'll just remind everybody that you can have a different frame of reference without lying, and immediately assuming ill intent is almost always a bad idea. Not always, but almost always.
But again, we can't even agree who was in the wrong with George Floyd.
Yes, it's true. It's a big part of the ongoing issue. Here's the one last thing I'll say on that is, when you think through it, it will back you into a very difficult corner, which is wise, in my opinion, to say well-intentioned, smart people believe that.
Well-intentioned,
now what?
Smart people believe.
Yes, that he died of fentanyl. Well-intentioned, smart people believe he died of fentanyl. Now, how do I get my way out of this corner? Versus insincere, manipulative assholes, racists, whatever, are the only people that could believe that. That's a corner that's too easy to get out of. It's what I try to do with leftists, who I actually think going unfettered will end up starving people to death, kids eating, the whole nine. But I go, okay, hold on. Well-intentioned, smart people believe it's the right path. Now I've got to fight my way out of that. Now, look, every now and then I let myself go on a pure emotional basis, fuck these kids. But when I'm really trying to think, how do we pull ourselves out of this? I start from smart, well-intentioned people believe this.
You've never seen an overdose before, if you believe that.
Truth Devon says, I agree with Tom. I think GOW will make money because of the brand, but in absolute sales, they will make less. Oh, God of War. That will be bad business. I play God of War. Tom, how do you handle pain for discipline mentally, like fasting for 3 days?
So I'm obsessed with my goals. This is one thing I really can't get people to lock onto. If you actually want your goal and you actually believe that you can do the thing to get there, then everything else is just a question of how badly do you want your goal. So I just obsess about that. And I have a part of my value system is that I have a willingness to suffer for the things that I want most, that I will never trade what I want right now for the things that I want most. And so as I'm doing the hard thing, I get this incredibly wonderful feeling of arrogance. I love to go in, like if somebody's cooking food, and I'm fasting, I'll go stand by the food and smell it and make I want my stomach cramping and I say to myself, welcome back, hunger. You are my old friend and you are helping me get as lean as I want to get. It's just all mind tricks.
There was one that we missed, a navigator. He responded under it. Is inflation useful for the masses to see number go up so they will feel they are winning or less likely to revolt?
Yeah, there is a part of that for sure, but it only works for asset holders. It doesn't work for the average person. The average person doesn't own anything that they're watching the price go up on, so they're just mad. But if you want to know how Pokemon cards go from being a cool thing that kids collect to a thing that people invest in, it's that. They have the the emotional love for the thing. So they're going to spend money on it, whether you want them to or not. Oh, and then it became an asset. Holy shit. Now I can watch number go up, even if it is just pure inflation, which actually with Pokemon it's not, but even if it were, then they're mollified. But the real brutal reality we have to face is 10% of people and 93% of the assets. So bad news.
And that's it for Super Chats.
All right. You guys are amazing. Thank you for being here with us. I wasn't watching chat, so I don't know how much love to throw at you guys. But nonetheless, I am grateful for you guys being here and for everybody that showed us love for approaching the topic in the way that we did. I thank you. To Drew and Ryan, my most deep gratitude for you guys being a part of this and putting yourselves out there on the internet. I really, really appreciate it. Yeah, it's amazing. You guys are rad. Everybody out there, I love you. And I know that I'm supposed to shout out our sponsor today, and I'm not going to because today was so fucking heavy. That felt super fucking weird. So yeah, knowingly not. But by the way, speaking of things, we'll do a make good to my beloved partnerships team. Masterclass Thursday, June 11th, going to be teaching people for free how to build a company with AI. So guys, join these. They are free. They're incredibly useful. The link is in the description. So I hope to see you June 11th at 1 p.m. Pacific time. All right. Love you guys. See you on Friday. Peace.